know. I was actually, you're saying this makes me think that maybe we should like progress the music for your daily scrum and just surprise somebody like for the middle of the song and see if they still get it. Like maybe we'll do it tomorrow. Maybe we'll do it tomorrow. Yeah.
All right. Welcome to today's episode of Your Daily Scrum. I'm professional Scrum trainer Ryan Ripley. That's professional Scrum trainer Todd Miller. We're running behind, so let's get going. Todd, we've got this awesome community.agilefreemans.com. In there, we've got some self-paced courses, a lot of discussion, hundreds of people working on their Scrum practices together. Join us. It's free. Community.agilefreemans.com. Today's question, Todd, how does a Scrum team avoid burnout?
It's interesting. I'm surprised we haven't gotten to this one either, because one of the things we always talk about with Scrum is sustainable pace. We talked about it in Agile Principles, I suppose.
Yep.
One of the 12 manifesto principles. But how do you avoid burnout? I think, at least from my vantage point, this is a transparency thing. If we're not appropriately making the sprint backlog transparent, if a product owner isn't creating transparency around the product backlog, and maybe we're how things are happening from a road mapping perspective, if you're using those kinds of things, that pressures can come that we're not ready for. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe is this a transparency thing? I don't know. Am I going down a weird path here?
No, I think it's smart, right? I think we need to show, maybe we're burning out.
Yeah.
No, I think transparency is good, but I also think there's some mentality here. I think developers need to pull on that Scrum value of courage and say, look, enough's enough. It's been weeks and weeks and weeks of insane hours, and we're adding more issues. I think tracking, so transparency of the state of the increment could also be important, Todd, to your point. But I also think this is one where sustainable pace just has to be part of your DNA, right? We're not trying to optimize busyness. And I think that's where we get in trouble a lot. People are like, well, is everyone 100% utilized and everyone busy all the time? It's nuts. Are we actually setting an outward facing sprint goal? Are we working on the minimal but sufficient to achieve that sprint goal? Are we breaking down work and considering work in terms of that minimal but sufficient to be successful? And I think as long as we're going down those paths and thinking in those terms, it's actually hard to break that whole sustainable pace goal, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it reminds me of the really simple yet powerful thought process of work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that there's a lot to be said for that, right? Like using our time wisely and learning how to focus, I think helps that. And learn how to work smarter, not harder. That just stuck out to me very early on my career. I had a boss that told me that work smarter, not harder. Just because you're putting in a ton of time doesn't mean you're getting a lot done.
Right.
And so I think all those things that you said, let's make sure that we have clear sprint goals that are achievable, that we're not just, burning the midnight oil for. Let's not add any of that weird stuff, right? You know what drives me crazy? What's your stretch goal on top of your sprint goal, Ryan?
Get rid of them. It's dumb.
My stretch goal is to make sure that my hamstrings don't tighten up. Right? Honestly.
Yeah. Stretch goals and bonus goals. And let's knock that. Todd, I think you've led us into another interesting area here. I think the feature factory mentality, the treadmill mentality, just keep burning through the backlog without any kind of concern or cohesiveness. I think that really gets us in this space too. And so I think a thoughtful product owner who's really working on great product goals, I think a Scrum team is focused on sprint goals to achieve that product goal without necessarily looking at, well, you're only 95% committed, blah, 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 all that nonsense that doesn't get us anywhere. But that value-driven approach, that product and sprint goal-driven approach, I think that gets us so much further. You know what, though? There is something to be said. I think there's one more avenue, like one more twist and turn we can go down before we end this one. I think technical excellence is a part of this too, right? I think you and I are running into a situation right now where the tech side of it is insanely frustrating for us. And we're trying to work through that. And that could get you burned out faster than anything else. That frustration, that thrashing, that trying to figure it out. And so I'm wondering,
maybe might be my current state of mind at this exact moment.
and so I think technical excellence is a part of it. Are we investing in the right tools, the right processes, the right practices, the right automation to actually get some of this frustration and burnout stuff kind of lifted out of the human realm and more into the automated realm, so that we can actually focus on solving interesting, complex problems instead of, well, is the period in the right place and where's the supporting file for this and all that stuff that we can automate and process away.
Yeah, I think so. I think firefighting is exhausting, Ryan.
So I lied. I've got one last thing. Firefighting is exhausting. I agree with you, and that's why there's a fire extinguisher on the cover of our book, Fixing Your Scrum. We want you to put the fire extinguisher away and fix that. But I'll say this too, as a former executive, when I would have employees that I noticed were working too late, I would sit them down and say, hey, we got to figure out why we can't achieve your objectives, your goals, your tasks in a 40-hour work week. And so I was intentional on the executive side too, where if I saw people were here 60, 70 hours and it was a consistent thing and it was pretty nuts, that's when I want to figure out, what is it about this role, this opportunity, the situation that's causing people to have to stretch like that? I think that's important too. Good Scrum Masters can ask that question as well.
Yeah, I think this is something Scrum Masters need to work on. Put it back on. One more thing for you to do. Make sure your teams aren't burning out. Make sure that a lot of this stuff is being thought of. Please don't use freaking stretch goals during sprints. Come on.
Nice.
I can't stand it.
All right. Before Grandpa Todd comes out and tells us to get off of his lawn, we're going to bring the end screen up. Be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Your questions and comments turn into episodes, so please leave us your questions, comments, general opinions, complaints, and anything else in the comments section below. Check out the socials. We've been pretty active lately, especially on Twitter. I cannot seem to avoid Twitter arguments, so if you want to poke the bear, poke away, and I will fire back. Or I'll just send you a smiley face or a GIF. We'll see. Some videos are going to pop up. The algorithm thinks you'll like them. We do too. Be sure to just binge watch all of those. There's hundreds and hundreds of videos now. Lots of great ideas and knowledge. There's other videos too. Fixing your Agile coaching, fixing your Kanban, fixing your metrics. Lots of smart people have joined us. Check those out as well. All right. For Todd Miller, I'm Ryan Ripley. Go forward, do some great Scrum things. We'll see you tomorrow.